welcome to episode number 13 of the Final Whistle Halloween edition. I am Kyle and Oompa Loompa, and we got Mark, who I can't even take him serious right now with that costume. Like, what are we,
I'm Sully, man, from Monsters Inc.
Monsters? What are we doing? Jesus Lord! And joining us today is a very special guest of ours, a great friend of ours, a man who drafted Bijan Robinson in the first round of the NFL fantasy draft. A man who traded for Chris McCaffrey and then traded him back 24 hours later. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex.
Thank you, boys. I appreciate you guys having me on. I love the costumes.
We tried. This hair's
This guy doesn't want to be in Halloween spirit, Kyle.
Halloween's. Yeah, he's got. Hey, he's Ezekiel Elliott. He's fine. He's good.
There we go.
He's good.
Repping
So
Ohio State this week.
So, and you guys saw the posters that were made. We've put on a show, and none other than Alex made them. So, Alex, we just want to say thank you for making those posters. You know, we were in touch when the show first began, but let's give everybody a background a little bit. What got you? Well, you played or not hockey. You played football. You played baseball. You played basketball. What kind of got you into sports growing up, and what is like sports meant to you in your life?
I think I've always been drawn to sports. Whether it was growing up watching ESPN, playing outside in the front yard with, my neighbors, doing all kinds of sports activities. It just runs in my family. So we've always been sports enthusiasts. So ever since I was a kid, I was pretty much involved with some type of sport, whether it was football, whether it was baseball, whether it was basketball. And that's kind of carried throughout my entire life. So now I'm currently studying sports management at Cleveland State.
Hell yeah.
And I look to continue, my long journey of sports in my career down the road.
And that's amazing. And I obviously got into a little bit of the digital marketing with those posters that you made. So there's a phenomenal poster, by the way. You did a great job. And actually, me and Alex were actually neighbors.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you. And me and Alex were neighbors a couple years ago before I moved to where I am now. And Mark actually lived right down the street from us as well. So we kind of known each other for a while. So we were happy to have him. Alex probably going to be on here and then probably closer to NBA playoffs in late spring. So talk a little bit more basketball. But we got to talk some news that happened over the weekend as the NBA is in the center of not what you want to be in the center of, a betting investigation, as Mark showing off the money there, as called Operation Royal Flush, Operation Nothing But Net 2. Big investigations. There's a gambling with the sports rig across 11 states, 30 individuals. There's a mafia involved. There's Chauncey Billups, the head coach of, probably won't be the head coach much longer, of the Portland Trail Blazers. Terry Rozier of the Miami Heat, he's a player. He got arrested. And Damon Jones, a former Cav and coach player. And there's a lot going on. There's two separate kind of things, as we talked about, as the betting, as the illegal poker is one that I think caught my eye, because I know us three kind of like to play poker at times, but there was a high-tech poker game going, or illegal stealing going on, where they had x-ray glasses, contacts that you could kind of see the poker hands and all that. So it was kind of wild. And Alex, I'll ask you, when you first broke about that, that's just some wild stuff that came out last Thursday.
Yeah, I think whether it's NBA or MLB, I know that we see an example very close to us with the Luis Ortiz and the Emmanuel Clase situation.
Yeah.
When you're at that high and you have that much of media covering you, I don't think that anything is ever going to go under the radar. And I think that these individuals need to take accountability when it comes to stuff like that. You're making millions upon millions. And for the fact that you guys are getting caught doing illegal gambling on the side, just shows that their mind's clearly not in the right place. And these athletes think that they can get away with some more than what they really can.
Yeah, and it's probably happened in other sports as well. Like as Alex said, baseball, the Cleveland Guardians, 2 pitchers are getting investigated right now. We still have no solution to that. Hopefully, we'll get before the season starts, because we don't even know if they're going to play another game for MLB or for Guardians in MLB. But Mark, I'll turn to you for this. This is very interesting. When we go to the other side of this, the rigging, the betting, as we know, there's a big name, LeBron James. Supposedly, there's rumors he kind of inflated this. We don't know. We're not trying to say yes or no. But Mark, that's kind of interesting. When you have a big name like that that's getting thrown around, that's something that in the sports world you kind of got to take into consideration when you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's it was pretty heavy hitting news. The minute LeBron James' name is entered in any conversation like that. From my understanding, everything I've read is it was just based upon his injury and not necessarily him himself. It sounded like he was telling Damon Jones, who was his coach at the time, in confidence that his ankle wasn't going to be good to go, and Damon Jones fell into that trap. Which, quite honestly, I think you probably see a lot, or you probably don't see it as much, but I bet you it happens a lot more than we know, where people are tipping off bettors, tipping off their friends, whatever the case may be, to beat the books,
Yeah,
and knowing that hey, take LeBron's under, or take the other team that's playing the Lakers before they release that LeBron won't play, things like that. But regardless, when it comes to a name like that, arguably the greatest player of all time, if not the second, depending on who you ask, even being in the mix in any type of way, it's going to be huge. Especially now you've got people like Jeff Teague. If any of you listen to his 520 podcast and things like that, kind of just outing and putting him even more so in the forefront all of a sudden, about him, his team, and how they operate, how they kind of just run the league and run things from a media perspective altogether. This is not really what you want if you are the Los Angeles Lakers, and if you're LeBron's camp in any type of way. Whether he did something or not, obviously, is not what we're saying, but just the fact that his name is lumped into it, it's not good press, especially when you're in the heat of the debate for, I mean, honestly, if you're the greatest player ever, especially when it comes to longevity wise and things like that, it's not something that you want to tarnish such a great legacy, whether he's from Cleveland, or from anywhere. It's not something you want to see anybody uh, be a part of and tarnish their legacy that way.
yeah, and and another, and we go to Terry Rozier, and that is like just we know is kind
Another
of we're
Cleveland guy.
yeah, he in Shaker Heights, born in Youngstown, Ohio. He played for Shaker Heights in high school, but and it kind of makes sense now as we see videos and clips of what he was not what he was doing for this, but like how he was throwing the games and making bad plays, and then he's telling people he's going to go out after a certain amount of time to to take the under. So it's just Alec, it's just mind boggling. Like you're making all this money and then you do this illegal stuff that now you got caught. Now your reputation's done. Your season's pretty much done. And now I don't know if maybe they're gonna start telling on each other because we already know a couple more names that got brought into this: Kevin Garnett, Antonio Gates. Who knows how far that goes? But it's very interesting that now you get into this and there's pretty much you're facing prison for, well, we're not going to get into that prison time, maybe we don't know, innocent to proven guilty, but Al, it's just kind of sad for the NBA world and sports fans like us.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think it doesn't just tarnish the player's reputation; it tarnishes the league's
Yep.
reputation.
Yeah.
Not only is the MLB getting tarnished, but also the NBA, and in case the NFL is also brought into this, it
Yeah.
shows that maybe there's more of this underneath the surface that we're really just hitting the tip of the iceberg. But I think
Mm-hmm.
ultimately you will see more cases come up, especially as further down the line and investigations now start to finally pick up.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I think this has been going on for quite some time. It's just now we're just officially getting into it, and we will see, the downfall of some athletes and maybe some big names coming in the near future.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. A lot to come from this, as we'll keep you updated as the story progresses. Very wild. So we're going to turn to college football, and there's been a big shakeup. I know Mark's been waiting for this all night and all day since this has been announced, as Brian Kelly of LSU has been fired. He has been let go of his duties after a poor season, after having all the media hype, all the national championship hype. We'll start with Mark first because he's been stewing on this all day on Monday since the news came out. Mark, you have the floor. How about that?
Get that bum out of here. That guy is terrible. If you look at how he's been, again, I am from the human side of things. You never want to see somebody
Right.
fired. Again,
Yep.
we have another 50. I believe his buyout was $54 million. So that's the second coach
Agreed.
this year, with a $50+ million buyout, that was fired this season after um, lack of production. If you look at Brian Kelly since he took over LSU and look at the teams that he's had, look at the players that he's had. He's had, I mean, first off, the when he first came to LSU, nobody liked him. They hated him because he put on that fake ass accent to start. Then his first game on October 18th against number 8 Tennessee, he gets the doors blown off him 40-13. I understand he picked up a couple wins. Mind you, he had Jaden Daniels, who was a Heisman winner at the time, who won those games at Ole Miss and Alabama in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Get the doors blown off him at Georgia that year. Now, mind you, that was the SEC championship game, so he got a bit of a break. He had Jaden Daniels though, so how much of a break? I'm not giving him very much because we see how JD looks in the league and he looks like a star. Then you play Florida State in a neutral site, doors blown off. Ole Miss, who was number 20 at the time, gave up 55 points. You lose to Alabama. You lose to a terrible USC team. You lose to Ole Miss again. You get the doors blown off you by Alabama. You beat this year alone. This year alone, he played 4 different top 10 opponents.
Mm-hmm.
He beat Clemson, who at the time was number 4. Look where they're at now. They're god awful, and Dabo's job is basically on the line. He's another one that I can't wait to hear his name fired, just because I'm going to laugh at his country ass for all that shit he talked. Then he gets beat by Ole Miss. He gets beat by Vandy, and Texas A&M bends him over and spanks him with the belt. I mean, it's long overdue. He's 5-10 in games with anybody inside the top 10. Inside the top 25, he's even worse. At LSU, you have a huge NIL portal. Everybody wants to be an LSU Tiger, especially after Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, all them boys are playing well in the league, and you can't get it done. He hasn't even sniffed the SEC championship game since Jaden left, and at this point, I mean, he's not even in these games. He's getting blown out, and he just sits there, tomato faced, looking confused, and just screaming at these kids because he sucks as a coach. Get him out of here! I'm so excited that he's gone because he's a dog shit big game coach. He's just as bad as James Franklin. I don't know who's worse.
Hey, and you never know. Could James Franklin be replacing him as he's gonna be? As he's one. They're both be a hot commodity.
Should have been James Franklin for Halloween. That would have been the scariest one yet.
As we don't know, Brian. As there's, we doubt Brian Kelly. Mark, I think you agree. Alex, you agree too. He's not gonna go this cycle without getting a job. Maybe he goes to Arkansas. Maybe he goes
He'll
somewhere.
probably get a lower level job.
Or State, Virginia Tech. There's stuff up there. And Al, I'll turn to you. I was thinking about this. I didn't tell this to Mark, so I kind of want to share it myself on here. But I was thinking maybe because of Notre Dame's schedule when they're they're not in a conference, that's why he was like all this and that, playing like a Boston College and playing like the Brooklyn Hurricanes, and they're just beating teams. And even when Cincinnati, he was in the Big East. He was in the Big East. West Virginia wasn't good. Pitt wasn't good. There was kind of his lower conferences, Alex, and I think maybe maybe now that's catching up to him. Like, well, they scheduled all these games and the conferences, and now look, he's playing these tougher conferences. He can't win the big one or get his team to the college football playoff.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that this one was coming. It was just a matter of when, and I think this weekend basically put the stamp of approval to get him out of here. One thing I did take a look at when it came to coaches at LSU, the last previous 3 head coaches before Kelly won a national championship at LSU alone. So you look at that stat and you look at that, and it's like, even with the players in the portal being open to pretty much anyone, LSU is bringing in names. They're going to always bring in names because that is a historic franchise to the college football landscape.
Yep.
But when you have those players being brought in and you have you want to have a winning culture established, and you're not being able to win the top games whenever it's pivotal for your team to win, you're going to get eyes drawn to you. And I think that Kelly needed to be fired, and I think this will reset LSU for the future. Now, when you look at the head coach search and the openings in head coaching in college football, leaves a lot of top teams, whether it's Florida, whether it's Penn State, or now LSU, being vacant of these jobs if either of these coaches are basically going to swap and fill the other one's position at one of these colleges to see what they can do.
Yeah, and we'll see. We already got one decommit as the guy went to Louisiana Tech from LSU. We found that out today. But I think we go to these coaching search. It's still, Mark, very interesting. Penn State has not had guys leave. That is very interesting. They have a 30-day transfer window. So I don't think unless you saw something, nobody's transferred. So I think that's very interesting. Maybe somebody knows something we don't yet of who's coming. But I think nobody has left USC, or not USC, Penn State. And now it's like, what does LSU people from LSU do? Do they leave? Do they? I mean, they just fired their DC and their OC too. So it's like, does LSU? What do they do? I mean, it's very interesting to say, especially with Penn State, when players have not left yet, and that's very. I don't know. Maybe that's telling that they, like I said, they know something we don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think also when it comes to especially these two teams in particular, um, the big thing about them coming into the season was they're very upperclassmen heavy. A lot of people forwent the NFL draft to stay their last year or their last 2 years, whatever the case may be. So I think a big part of it when it comes to Penn State and when it comes to LSU coming up is you probably won't see a lot of guys leave because they're in their last year anyways and they've already played too much of this season to earn that red shirt. Um, but when you look at it, you have seen a lot of good commits from Penn State out of high school that have either decommitted or said that they're committed, but they're keeping their recruitment now open. So that's the big thing I think we need to watch with LSU that we've been watching with Penn State. It's not necessarily the players leaving because they're both senior heavy teams, but you need to look at their commits and what's going to start happening moving forward with those type of kids. Because if you notice, we talked about it when Franklin got fired. Penn State had a really high rated recruiting class. Now a
Yeah,
lot of those kids for not only this coming year, because you do get that late signing window, but also in years coming up. So kids that are juniors this year and things like that, they're opening up their recruitment, they're decommitting. So that's going to be a big thing to look at for LSU because we know they were in the running for Underwood. So we know just based off of that situation alone, they have money down there. So it'll be
hmm
interesting to see what happens with a lot of these recruits, especially with this coaching search, because they're going to need to. I mean, they're going to need a big splash to keep bringing in big names. Penn State, you're in the Big Ten. You're not going to play Ohio State for a few years, but LSU, they're battling with SEC country, and you know that. Penn State, Ohio State, they kind of have their own niche pockets,
hmm
as well as worldwide, but they have their niche pockets they can always pull from. When it comes to LSU and SEC country, you're fighting with everybody for those Florida kids, those Louisiana kids, Georgia, Alabama. You're fighting with big time SEC people, and now you don't have any coaches. So that's going to be the big thing to watch for them, I think, as opposed to that 30-day transfer window outside of the younger kids that they
yeah.
know have a chance next year to be next up anyway.
Yeah, and they have a potentially first round quarterback in Nussmeyer. How much longer does he play? How much longer do you say, you know what, I'm done. I'm gone. I'm just gonna start focusing on combines. Combine starts in February. So he's gonna be probably I don't obviously he's not gonna play in the bowl game. He's probably I would
Hell no.
does he play the whole season, the rest of the season, knowing this the season pretty much a lost cause and turmoil? I mean, that's what probably the next big decision coming from there. How much longer does he play and keep his health? And you saw what happened to Aller, one bad play and your season's done, and now you now we don't. Is he gonna be ready for the combine? We don't know. So lots to focus on, and this is the beginning of a coaching cycle, everybody, because NFL hasn't done their stuff yet. Besides one team, NFL's coming. We still don't know is our three favorite team, the Browns. What are they gonna do? Obviously, this week probably nothing. So there's still a lot to talk
Complete the
about.
cycle. That's what they need to do is complete the cycle. Jimmy, I'm speaking to you and I'm going to speak to you later. Complete the cycle, my boy.
We will get into the Browns and the NFL in just a little bit because I know we all have thoughts on this. Alex, especially because we've obviously talked every game, but we're going to continue with college as we always do. We talk Michigan, Ohio State. Ohio State did not play, so we're going to give a little quick preview on Ohio State, Penn State, as we thought it would be a big one coming up this week as now all of a sudden Penn State is just looking to make a bowl game at this point. Before we get into a kind of a review of this past week, we'll start with Alex. What do you think happens? Ohio State, Penn State, with Penn State nothing to lose coming into the shoe Saturday afternoon.
With nothing to lose, according to Penn State, especially with the firing of James Franklin and the loss of Aller, I think that we all know what's to come. And I think that Ohio State just will roll through another one of these teams, look amazing, score as much as they need to in order to get by, and will keep the stamp of number one on their season. Losing Franklin and Aller obviously put Penn State's team in the entire blender. Ever since that moment, you could tell like it's almost been a culture shock within Penn State. Like, hey, you know what? We still got to finish out the season, losing two of your potential biggest names
Yeah.
in the franchise, and it's like, okay, so now we have to go into Columbus at big noon this Saturday. I
Yeah.
don't believe that Ohio State is going to lose. But I wouldn't expect, if Penn State does make it a little bit chippy in the first quarter, it's a Big Ten game. Big Ten teams make
Yeah.
games out of, when it's to come and when it's not to come.
Yep. So we'll see. We'll see how that happens. As you're right. I mean, it's college football. It's been a weird season, so anything could happen. And we'll just. I think we know where Mark's gonna go with this. So Mark.
3 words: belt to ass. That's what's going to happen this weekend, Kyle. This is karma for James Franklin not being fired when he was supposed to years ago. Dog shit ass coach. I hope he's fucking crying just like he was on the ESPN interview. That little pussy bitch. And you know what? At the same time, they should have kept Bo Prabula. They should have kept Bo Prabula. I called it last year when he transferred. Look what he did in Missouri until he got hurt. Now look at him. They're playing some random kid that's shitting down his leg every time he calls hike. Belt to ass. We're gonna fucking roll through him. They might as well not show up, honestly. And you got to come to the shoe. They know that they don't got to play us for a couple of years. It's gonna get ugly.
Do they
Matty P legacy game coming up.
As it's gonna be very interesting to see how that does. As we're not gonna pick the game. We all think Ohio State's gonna win, so we'll leave it at that. So let's review some of these games real quick as we continue with the college slate. As you know, as we're leading up to Ohio State Michigan, as of right now, still means a lot to both teams. But as we go week by week, we'll have to see. But Michigan defeated Michigan State 31-20. It was a typical rivalry game, sloppy. And when you get to Michigan State, it's always gonna be sloppy. They have that D'Antonio voodoo. Run game was strong. That kind of helped Michigan propel Mark, and Bryce didn't play his best, but like I said, Michigan did enough to beat at Michigan State, and they still have everything in front of them.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, it's his first time in a rivalry game. I also think that when it comes to Bryce Underwood, and Kyle, you and I have talked about this, I think, at length. You put the price tag that it took, quote unquote, to get him in the building, and you raise his level of where he should be at. We got to remember this kid's not even 18 years old yet, if I'm not mistaken. He's not even a legal adult, or if he is, he's a brand new legal adult playing at a blue blood franchise, with a coach, and let's be honest, with a head coach. I will say, I'm not going to say the OC, because Kyle, I'm actually going to use one of your points, in which I agree with, and we've talked about at length as well. Their OC has the handcuffs on him when it comes to play calling from Sharon Moore, and it's pretty obvious because look at the way their offense looked when Moore served the suspension, and since he's come back. Ever since Moore came back, it's heavy run, play action. That's not Underwood, and that's not how the OC wants to run it either. But it's how Moore wants to run it, and he's trying to keep that hardball way, which I can understand based off of the running backs that you have. You have a two-headed monster at running back, but at the same time, that's going to hinder your quarterback's ability to do some things, and eventually you're going to have to trust him to win some of these games instead of win in spite of him. The running game looked good as always. I think I'm starting to wonder if Wink doesn't have some NFL opportunity lined up. I understand the defense is young, but his schemes aren't quite the schemes that you're used to Wink Martindale running, especially in the college ranks. So I'm starting to wonder if he doesn't have maybe an opportunity lined up that he knows about, or he may know that he's looking to make that leap again, with the defense in the NFL being what it is, and coaches kind of getting fired left and right. But at the end of the day, Michigan looked good. All things considered, they handled business, and they're right on their way. They're still not out of the Big Ten race.
Nope.
I understand we kind of run it, but I put Michigan kind of right in that 3-4 spot, right behind Ohio State and Indiana as the best of the rest. And you really can't sleep on them when it comes to big games, because they know how to pull it out.
And there is a lot of eliminator games coming up that starts this week. USC Nebraska will dive into that. Oregon Iowa next week. That's an eliminator all of a sudden. So we'll talk about that. But Alex, look, for non-biased aside, as I know we kind of joke, we troll each other about we hate each other's teams, but on non-biased side, what do you think of Michigan so far at this point in the season?
Well, I think anytime you have a rookie kind of freshman quarterback stepping into big games in his first year, it's not going to be the perfect season that you want it to be. Right. Bryce Underwood, like you guys said, in his first rivalry game, he was 8 for 17 with 86 yards. but they leaned on the running back, and he had 26 carries for 152 and 2 touchdowns. So I think that was the stamp that Michigan needed, was to put the run game in place so that
Mm-hmm.
they can bounce back to that as soon as they needed it. Michigan's been one of those power run heavy teams back to the Harbaugh days, even when they had Blake Corum. If they're able to run the ball, then I think that ultimately Michigan is going to have a chance to win every single week. So I saw this one coming. And I believe that Michigan, like Mark said, will be one of those contenders towards the end of the time where we look at the Big Ten and say, hey, they're kind of, starting to slowly creep up.
Yeah, so it'll be very interesting. They're sitting there along with USC and Oregon and all the other teams as they get Purdue this week, and they should beat Purdue. So we're not going to dive into that. So we'll leave it at there. Michigan,
Yikes.
Purdue, Penn
We'll
State.
see.
So, but yeah, Purdue this week, and then they get their bye before the final stretch, and then the showdown as we get closer to that. Another game that was kind of interesting on the docket, as we're going to flip over to Texas and Mississippi State. This was a game that was kind of interesting, Mark, because Texas looked dead in the water, and then Arch Manning goes out, and then actually I'll turn to Alex on this real quick. All of a sudden, they come back and win in overtime. Is Arch's time maybe limited? But then, Mark, we'll talk about this too. When Steve Sarkisian, all those rumors came out that day, we thought, no, maybe Texas has quit. They found out what happened. They're done. They don't want to play for him. But Alex, no Arch, they come back and win. What does that say to you?
I think this is one of those wins that Texas needed to show that they are still one of the teams that you should look out for coming down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
It was a duel of quarterbacks this game. Both the quarterbacks combined for 727 yards and 7 touchdowns in this battle. But my biggest thing to pinpoint when it comes to talking about Texas versus Mississippi State is it was 31-14 going into the fourth quarter for Mississippi.
Yeah.
So you allowed Texas to crawl all the way back to score an onslaught of points in the fourth quarter and take the game in overtime at home.
Yeah.
That just shows, I think, more of a downfall for Mississippi State going into the future. But I think this is one of those wins for Texas that shows, hey, we can still compete, and we can still compete at a high level whenever we need to flip that gear on. So ultimately, I think that this benefits Texas, and this will only project them to higher ranking as the season continues.
Yeah, and Texas, they're hanging around still the SEC and CFB Talk. Let's be honest, going back to Mississippi State. Mississippi State hasn't really been up there since pretty much the Mike Leach days, and God rest his soul, Mike Leach, gone way too soon. But that's pretty much the last time I would. Unfortunately, they've kind of been up there and been relevant as their rival, Ole Miss. We'll get into in a minute, has kind of been taking us state by storm. But Mark, I'll turn to you on this. We got the reports. Sarkisian was ready to go. He's telling the NFL, "Hey, come get me if you want. I'll listen." Especially the Titans. And we thought, Mark, we were talking during the game that maybe when the team found out that they quit, like, you know what, he's checked out, we're checked out, especially where we're at, but they come back and win. But I think as a team morale, as Alex said, this win was good for them. But what's in the back of their minds knowing their coach is probably out the door after this season?
Yeah, I don't disagree, and it did look like in the first half they really did kind of quit, and then they resurrected themselves, gave themselves a self revive, and figured it out. But I mean, at the end of the day, uh, when you ask college coaches and when you look into like these type of scenarios where I know Sark has to deny it no matter what, but let's be honest, if the NFL is going to come calling him at this point, I think he's going to listen. He knows whether you're in college or in the NFL at this point, it's pretty much all the same. With NIL, everything else, there's not much difference, but I think it can go both ways. I'm actually going to go with Alex's point of view, where I think Texas needed this, but
Yeah.
not for Sark, for the players. I think the players needed to see, hey, we can win. We're the ones that are in control of these games, not necessarily Coach Sark, but we are. We're the ones that are on the field. We're the ones that play these games, and we can still fight through adversity. Because if you think about it, while Mississippi State hasn't been good for a while, they're having a pretty good season this year, all things considered. They're a surprise team in the SEC. No SEC game is really is going to be a cakewalk, if we're going to be honest. And Arch hasn't been playing his best football. So, and I believe he also ended up going out of this game in overtime, if I'm not mistaken. So they'll have to watch his health here moving forward. But I think for the Texas players, and just understanding that that not only can they beat that that real bad situation, but but that they have the control over their season and not necessarily what a coach says. It says it's going to speak volumes for them moving forward, and I wouldn't be surprised if they started to go on their own run here after that type of comeback.
Yeah, they got a big one this week against Vanderbilt. That's pretty much both seasons are on the line for that one. But I just want to think with Arch, do they play Arch? I mean, their quarterback does Arch, but let me put it this way: we don't know if Arch is playing that he wins that game. We don't know. Just like me, I know Alex. We talk about the Eagles Super Bowl run like that. We don't know if that quarterback's playing if he wins that game. Do you start that guy this weekend's Vandy? Especially if, even though Arch is healthy, if he plays well, I mean, what do you do? Do you play him out, or do you just kind of roll the dice with Arch and see what they got, and hopefully he helps and pulls out a win against Vandy?
I think you have to roll with Arch. I mean, he's the guy that everyone has looked forward to starting when it came to Texas this year, and he's had the eyes on him for the entirety of all offseason and even the first game of the season where they went into the shoe against the Buckeyes, and he didn't perform as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's made, and this is where it make or breaks these quarterbacks, is where you see them in the projected games where, hey, maybe we should roll the dice and give him a chance. But I
Right.
ultimately think that you have to go with your number one guy, and Texas should roll with Arch if they want to have a chance to pull it out this weekend.
So we'll see. We'll dive into that game a little bit when we do our picks. Let's go to another one that obviously was kind of centered around the college football world this week. Missouri and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt defeated Missouri 17-10. And Mark, that was a huge game for Vandy. And I'm going to say it, and I know you agree. And Alex, I'll tell you this. I'll say it because I didn't tell you this yet. They're this year's Indiana. No one ever saw them coming. And look at this. Indiana from last year, Vandy this year, Mark. Vandy's in position. They beat Texas. I think they're almost a lock to at least get in a CFP and still hanging around the SEC contention. Might be a little harder, but I think CFP is more realistic right now than the SEC title game.
Hey, you know what? If the glass slipper fits, crown them Cinderella, right? I mean, they found a way to win. I think a hot take becomes, I think if Prabula doesn't get hurt, I don't know that they complete that game. Both quarterbacks, in their own respective ways, were on heaters. Prabula and Pavia both looked the part in their own respective ways. You saw the dual threat of Prabula. He was throwing a good game. He was running all over the place, making plays happen. Pavia, not the best throwing day, but when it came down to it, when he got into the red zone, he, in my opinion at least, he addressed some of the mistakes that he made against Bama that ultimately lost them that game as opposed to won them that game. And he trusted his gut, he trusted his instincts, and he was running the ball. He was just letting and creating what the defense gave him, and making plays based off of that. I know he struck the Heisman pose. I think he's up there for it. I don't know that he's number one right now, but at the same time, he's definitely got Vandy rocking and rolling, and that swag in the way he plays football, it's infectious for that team. And I agree, they're definitely in play for the SEC championship. But don't be surprised if they're not only in the playoff, but they give somebody a hard run for their money because they're no slouch.
Yeah, and they're hanging around, and Missouri was a decent team as they came in with all hopes too. Now their hopes kind of dwindled a little bit, kind of need a lot of help, and pretty much went out to even have to sniff the CFP, maybe even backdoor it. But Alex, I'll come to you with a team like Vanderbilt. You're top 10, you have everything coming at you, and now you got a Texas team coming in. How do you handle those emotions, knowing, hey, you're there, but you're not there yet. You still got a rivalry game with Tennessee coming up at the end of the year. That's pretty much going to, because Tennessee's playing for their life, so that game means a lot to them, especially in state. And then you just got the senior led team that you pretty much at least went out till that rivalry game. You're pretty much okay unless you lose a game before that. But I think Vandy's sitting pretty in the top 10 right now, especially when its rankings for CFP come out next week.
I don't think that anything necessarily changes for Vanderbilt going into a game against Texas this week. Both teams had a very gritty win, so I think that both teams are kind of on a high from last weekend's wins.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, let's not forget, Missouri was about 1 yard close from tying that game up.
Yeah,
It was down to a game of inches where the last pass was completed and it wasn't called the touchdown on the 1 yard
That
line.
was
So
insane.
we could be having a different conversation right now if, roles were kind of reversed. Does, Vanderbilt look as good in the win if they lose on that? But I guess we'll never know. And the facts are is Vanderbilt won, Texas won going into this week. I think it's going to be a gritty win. or a gritty battle again, as in last week's comeback win for Texas and Vanderbilt's win against Missouri.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good one to watch. We'll dive into that, as we said, in a minute. As we'll talk real quick, we're gonna move on to a real quick talk. Texas A&M LSU, as we kind of talked about, covered the LSU game, even though we kind of did and didn't at the same time. Texas A&M beats LSU 49-25. But Mark, I think it's more on Texas A&M, as they're no one's talking about them. They're sitting quietly at number 3. They're sitting quietly perfectly in the SEC right now, and they keep winning. They're going to be facing Bama or Georgia in the title game in a couple weeks on Championship Saturday, and still nobody's talking about this poor lonely Aggie A&M team.
Yeah, and it's honestly actually kind of confusing because their quarterback is playing great football right now. He hit a couple of Lamar Jackson esque moves, and he was really I mean, he had me oohing and on a little bit there as he just ran roughshod through LSU. It's that's the type of a team that you really got to watch for, because when they're that good and they're blowing the doors off of good teams that you expected to be great this year, and then you don't talk about them, you're putting a chip on a already really good team's shoulder and making them great. Um, I mean, nobody's talking about them. I understand they haven't really played a crazy schedule, but they're not exactly playing nobodies in SEC country, and they're winning games handily. So I mean, don't be surprised if they make a good run here. And we all know how hard it is to play in A&M. That's not an easy place to play. So if anybody's got to travel there, they're screwed. And if they're, I mean, their offense is humming right now. So if I'm anybody in the SEC and I'm anybody in the college football world, they're in the back of my mind, despite some of these teams like Vandy and everybody else who's very exciting. There's this team there that's just handling business each and every week, and just dismantling good teams and making them look like shit. And that's usually the mark of a great team and a championship team.
Yeah, and they're very quiet. And Alex, and the new rules are for CFP. You don't have to be a conference champ to get into the top 4 for a bye. You just, if you have a resume like A&M's just quietly winning, you're sitting perfectly. They still got Texas coming up. They got, I think, South Carolina next week coming up. So not out of the woods yet. But Alex, a team like that, 3-0, right behind Ohio State and Indiana, a team no one's talking about, candidates a top QB in the draft all of a sudden. It makes you look like they're the part and they're a real title contender, as Mark said.
Yeah, they're definitely a title contender, but I like the fact that they are flying under the radar and not catching a lot of teams like, an Ohio State and Indiana. They're not getting as much press as those top teams are. When you have a team that flies under the radar, you're not expected of so much like expectations. And I think that's what makes this Texas A&M team so good. One thing about that Texas A&M and LSU game, LSU was leading at half.
Yeah.
LSU was up 18 to
18-14.
14 at half. And then they absolutely put LSU in the dirt and got Brian Kelly fired. So it shows that those
That's
teams
a W
of
just
those
for me.
caliber can, e- amount to extraordinary wins. And the fact that they are ranked number 3, sitting pretty behind Ohio State and Indiana, it shows a lot that they could do some damage in the college football playoffs coming up.
Yeah, and one loss is not going to kill them. They'll probably just lose their seeding, but they should be in unless they somehow lose next week and to Texas. Then they probably got to hope for their playoff lives at some point, but they should be in, as Texas A&M looking apart on a bye week before getting back to action next week. One more to wrap up the review: Old Miss versus Oklahoma. And I thought this was very interesting because there's a lot of storylines in this game as you're following college football, not just off on the field but off the field, especially this last 24 hours. As as Oklahoma, all of a sudden, they're on a downslide. They look good to start the season. John Mateer gets hurt, and now you lose like 2 out of your last 3. You get buried by your rival Texas. You lose deep, high scoring to Old Miss. And on the other side, Alex, Old Miss, their coach is all of a sudden being announced for all these coaching jobs, and they're still winning
Big
after losing.
Lane.
So, and he kind of looked, as we were watching McAfee today. I know you were kind of busy with your thing, but me and Mark are watching. It looked very like Mark. We'll get to that in a minute, but it just looked like he didn't want to be there. And what a team that you still have high hopes. You want to get in the playoff, but it's Ole Miss. They're still winning. You got to give credit to that for trying to block out the noise.
Oh, 100%. And I think to actually quote McAfee and talk about Ole Miss's quarterback, Trinidad is a dog. 315 yards and one touchdown. Even still, and they're still continuing to win in these big games. I get that, Oklahoma ran out of time as they were trying to mount a comeback win at the end of the game, but I think this shows you what Ole Miss is capable of. Ole Miss hasn't been that bad of a college football team in the last few years. They've produced some big names coming out of Ole Miss, even transfers, and Judkins going into Ohio State, Jackson Dart coming out into the draft. So they do
Yep.
recruit well, and they do get players that ultimately want to change the culture and win in Ole Miss. Um, but I think another thing to kind of look at when it comes to this game is both for Oklahoma and Ole Miss, both running backs accountable for 2 touchdowns each. And that
Mhm.
says a thing about both teams is that the run is heavy and it still is one of the most prominent things in college football. And if you have a solid running back, it can take you to special places, and I think that Ole Miss will benefit off of having a running back as such.
Yeah, and they're playing, like you said, they're playing a part. We didn't really know about this quarterback going into the season, and even throughout the season, oh, who is this? Is Ole Miss? And when they played LSU, it was kind of okay. Who would choke first? Would it be LSU? Would it be Lane Kiffin? Because Lane Kiffin's usually a 3 loss. He was a 3 loss team last year with this Ole Miss team, and now he's sitting pretty, and he has a logistic shot getting the playoffs. But Mark, as I know you were watching, when this kind of happens, you could tell, and I kind of thought this too. I know I was kind of busy running around for work, so I didn't really talk to you about this. But he didn't look like today on McAfee. He wanted to be there because I think he knows what was going to get asked. He knows what's going on, and he's just trying to keep the focus on this season to get them into the CFP.
Yeah, I agree. I feel as though he is trying to stay out of the media as much as possible, especially after he kind of showed his ass a little bit with a couple of those players in the post game, which I loved, by the way. Lane's a good coach. He's an offensive guru, and he's really got that team humming. Ole Miss has never really been a slouch. While they have had their mishaps in big games in prior years, they've never been an easy out, and they always can score points in boatloads. It's really about how their defense is going to respond, and their defense in the last couple of big games has responded actually pretty well.
Yeah,
I think Lane's got these boys together. They found their quarterback, a D2 transfer, which is a great story in and of itself. But that kid's playing great, as Alex said. I mean, their running game is, I mean, it's heavy, man. And if you can't stop that, I mean, you're gonna have a long day ahead of you. They're playing smash mouth football with the quarterback that can sling it behind him. And Lane's got that offense like a well-oiled machine. He's a Saban prophet, so he knows what to do. And I think this could be their year. They kind of even still are flying under the radar a little bit. They're not easy out, and Ole Miss is not a stadium in which you really want to find yourself playing in either. They probably won't win the SEC, but you could be looking at a home playoff game in which Trinidad Chambers and that offense could be looking to have a field day, and I mean, they can make a serious run. Lane knows what he's doing down there, and he studied Saban for a long time. There's no reason, and it's no coincidence why Kirby Smart and Lane Kiffin are the ones that Nick Saban talks about the most and most highly of, and it's well deserved in my personal opinion. Even though he tends to falter in some big games, he recruits well and he has those boys ready to go each and every week.
yeah, and it's going to be interesting as I don't their defense I think still needs work as they give it up like 30 plus to Georgia last week, and now you give up 20 plus this week, and it was a little, and maybe if a healthy material you give up another 30 this week, so it's going to be interesting. Can they tidy their defense down? Yeah, you might get into a shootout, but when it comes playoff time, you're going to get these 17-10 type of games, 20-14 type games in the playoffs, but it's very interesting. I think the most stands out. He's doing great at blocking out the noise. I think Mark. I would think you would agree the defense is still got to kind of get worked on because that defense like that, you let an SEC team do that. Just imagine if you get an Ohio State team or you get an Indiana team, they're going to exploit those weaknesses, and you might be out of the first round before you know it.
Yeah, I agree. But as long as he stays out of the media, keeps the focus in house, and keeps these boys with their eyes on the prize. I mean, you never know what they could do. They've got a whole lot of talent all over the place. All they need to do is fix a few things here and there, and I think this could be a big year for them.
So we'll see as they are on their way to probably CFP unless something drastic happens with them. They got a big one rivalry week as well with Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl they call it. We can't wait to dive into that as we get going. So all right, we're gonna pick some games before we move on to the NFL because I know we're all dying to talk about our beloved Browns. So you know all three of us have a lot to say. So we're gonna start with as Alex's reaction. We already know where that's going. So let's go first. This is a ACC eliminator. This is a big one. This probably terms of CFP for both teams. Miami versus SMU. Alex, we'll start with you. This is a big one. Miami loses. They might be on the outside looking in after this. SMU's playing for their hopes at this point after losing a heartbreaker last week to Wake Forest. Who do you got?
Miami's looked good. I would say to start off the season, obviously being ranked 3 at one point and dropping down now to 10, and losing against a Louisville team that is also scrappy going into Miami and actually pulling out the win.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is Miami all the way. I don't think that SMU is going to be able to stand a chance, and I think that Miami needs this more than SMU does in order to keep their high rank so that they don't drop because they're on the cusp of the top 12.
Yeah.
So they need, in order to stay above that top 12 waterline, they need this win more. So I think that I'll be taking Miami against SMU.
Yeah, and Miami it doesn't control their own destiny for the ACC at this point. They need a lot of help if they want to get a conference title to improve their seed. Mark, who you taking?
It's a tough one because Alex talks about who needs this game more. Miami definitely needs this game more, and what does that mean? That means pressure on Carson Beck. What does Carson Beck show when he's under pressure? That kid turns to a pumpkin real fast, about as big of a pumpkin
Blueprint
as those orange jerseys
from
that they
Louisville.
wear. So I mean, while I want to take Miami, I also don't wonder if they don't shit the bed here. But in knowing my luck, I'll probably get bit in the ass here. I'm gonna go with Miami as well. They should win the game. They have more talent, but I think it's gonna be a lot closer than what people think and are giving SMU credit for, based off the fact that I mean, this super senior quarterback is I don't know, he gets his head in the clouds and starts freaking out, and he's at any point he's vamped to throw 5 interceptions in a game and then just look and smile like an idiot. So
Hey, just take the Miami blueprint, or not the Miami Louisville blueprint. Last week they pretty much ran. You know, they showed you how to beat Miami. You beat Miami by pressuring Carson Beck, and he threw 4 interceptions. So I'm going. I'm going to go Miami. I think they bounce back. SMU. They should have blew out. I mean, Wake Forest always. They always did that one upset each year, and then that was SMU. So I don't think SMU comes back from that. Now, if they would have won, I maybe they had the momentum. I could have taken that. But I like in this one probably. I would say win by 1 or 2 scores, depending on how that game goes this Saturday. All right, we're going to move on to this is a very interesting one as nobody really talks about these teams, and we love talking about these smaller teams. The Navy versus North Texas, and it's pretty much college football playoff implications on the line. You lose, you're pretty much eliminated, even though you only have one loss. You win, you're alive and well for the group of five. But we'll turn to you, Mark. This is a big one, and it's very interesting because Navy are they looking ahead? They got a big one with Notre Dame next week.
yeah, I we all know about these military schools. They're not only scrappy, but they're really hard to plan and play against. Navy is undefeated right now. North Texas knows that if they don't win this game, they're in some trouble. I actually am going to go ahead and take Navy on this one. Even coaches at Ohio State at some of these big power programs, they have said that if they didn't just have the sheer talent that Navy didn't have, it's almost impossible to game plan against them, and you just have to pray that your talent is better. I'm going with Navy on this.
Al?
I'd have to agree. I think that, Navy sitting there at undefeated record, that they're going to just need to take this win and they're going to take it with, a punishing fashion. I know that this is also a playoff implicator almost looking in, but I think that this is Navy's game all the way through.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth about this since we saw the schedule come out, or well, looked at the schedule for this week. North Texas, as Navy's always, are they looking ahead or are they not? As Naval Academy, they love running the ball. It's what you do. You never really see them throw. You see them throw once in a while, not like a normal team. So if you haven't watched, or you're not a big sports fan, or don't watch the Naval Academy that much, they're in even Army and Air Force. Air Force throws more than Navy and Army combined, but Navy Army, there's a lot of running the ball. You don't really see it. You don't really as how you doing to that dog? Nice dog, cute dog. How you doing? Keep it moving. But So I like. I think I'm going to go Navy in this one. I think Navy's going to run the ball. Now I won't. Does
Maybe
North
across the
Texas win?
board.
I I wouldn't be surprised North Texas wins though. I would not be surprised if North Tech. I don't know. I think Navy wants that showdown with
North
Notre Dame.
Texas is no slouch.
No, and Navy's got. We'll talk about this next week. Navy's got Notre Dame, and that if Navy wins, that is an eliminator. Let me tell you that. That could be
Please
for.
win. Please.
That could be. We might have to wear American stuff next week if Navy does win. Beat Notre Dame. So we'll see. We're all taking Navy in that one. Another one we're going to go to, as we talked about it, Vanderbilt and Texas. You win, your hopes are alive. You probably need some help to get back in, especially if you're Vandy, because of this Texas team. We'll go to start with Alex. Who you taking?
It's tough. I think it's real tough. I think that the way
You
that
know where to
Vanderbilt's
go,
been
Al.
playing,
You know where to go, Al.
I think that the way that Vanderbilt's been playing has been undeniable. And I think that the way that Texas just won this last week was something that shows, a lot within the players, like Mark said earlier, that they needed that huge win last week. I got to go with my gut on this one, and I'm going to have to go with Texas. I
Okay.
got to go with Texas this week against Vandy. I don't think that Vanderbilt, although they've had big wins against, Missouri and other teams across, the college football nation so far this year, I just think that Texas has something up their sleeve coming back, and I think they'll plant their flag pretty much here soon in the top 12, and I still think that they'll be able to sneak in around the end of the year. So I'm going to go with Texas against Vanderbilt this week.
Yeah, I'm torn too. I think we're all torn. Well, I think we know where Mark's going, but I does the Cinderella story end as Mark brought him up? It's Texas at home too. I like Texas. I think I'm gonna go Texas. I just think if it was at Vandy, I would say it's a little different. But you're at Texas. You you're playing. You're desperate right now. Playing maybe that win jolts them to get back in because if Vandy you could play around with another loss due to the losses, but I like Texas, Mark. I think they come out and win this. They're desperate, and I think they get the win. Vandy, I think, is coming off that high of the last couple of weeks. Horns down.
Hands down,
You're up.
pussies.
Horns down. You're up.
Diego for president. Vandy's gonna pull this off. Arch Manning's a fucking fraud. Sark's going to the NFL. Vandy pulls it off again. If the glass slipper fits, put it on her foot. Vandy. Vandy's gonna win this one. I'll stay on
Hey,
this island and I'll die on this hill.
and this we can't wait. The CFP rankings come out Tuesday, so it'll be very interesting. If Vandy wins, where are they put? Because remember, folks, if you're looking at the AP
Fucking poll
poll,
number one.
if you're looking at the AP poll, stop looking at it. Starting right now, that poll does not matter at this point in the season. As me and Mark talked about throughout the season, you at this point that means nothing. That's just a noise at this point. So we'll see where Vandy rate or is if they win. We'll go another one. This is kind of an eliminator too, especially for the Big 12. College game day will be this week. Cincinnati and Utah, Mark. This is a big one. Utah loves playing these games, these high elevated games. And since he's kind of knocking back on the door ever since the Luke Fickle era, looking to get back into contention, but got to go for Utah.
This is a tough one because we all know how Utah plays. They're a traditionally and historically gritty team. Um, but I am. I think I'm going to go with a homer pick. I'm gonna go Cincy on this one. I get the feeling I do like their quarterback, all things considered. He plays good football. He makes the right decisions. He's got that team rocking and rolling. And I think Utah is kind of starting to feel the pressure of what their schedule's been. They've gotten beat down a couple of times to BYU. They've played in some slugfest, and I think eventually that takes a toll on you. Whereas Cincy again, kind of flying under the radar. Nobody's really talking about them in the Big 12, and all of a sudden here they are. They got a number next to their name, and they're playing good football. I think Cincy wins a close one and jolts themselves up into some Big 12 talk here.
Yeah, Al.
I think I'm going to go away from the homer pick, and I'm going to go with Utah.
I like it.
I'm going to take Utah this week against Cincinnati. I think Utah, if I'm not mistaken, just came off a huge win against the Colorado Buffaloes this past weekend.
Yeah.
And I think that they'll just continue that momentum. And Utah's been one of those teams that have been solid throughout the year. I feel like the last few years as well, they've been a gritty team that when it comes to it, Utah can get some pretty strung together, nice wins. And I
Yeah.
think they'll continue this weekend, especially coming off a big win in Colorado, and just keep it rolling.
Yeah, I like Utah. Utah, I think is gonna roll. Or they're always like Mark said. They play. They're always up for these games. They sneak in somehow. They're always. I like Cincy. Or excuse me, Utah. I think Utah beats Cincy, and Utah's right back in this thing. Utah gets right back in it, and they play. Or they need help to get into Big 12, but you keep winning, you're to find yourself in the CFP conversation as well. All right, we're gonna make a quick pick as this is an interesting game, pretty much a CFP eliminator as it's more of a Big Ten eliminator for USC. Nebraska's pretty much out of things unless they run the table. USC, Nebraska. Alex, quick pick.
USC. I
USC.
just don't think that Nebraska has what it takes to, and I think that they're going to just USC is going to go in there and take it. Although, you know, I think that it could be a little bit of a battle. I think that it's USC's all the way.
Mark, is this the loss and Matt Rule packing?
Matt Rule's already his bag's been packed. He found out that Milk Dud James Franklin got fired, and he started packing his bags instantly. He's about ready to replace that fucking bum. Since the minute he found out, that's his alma mater. USC rolls. Him and Timu Mahomes, as Kyle likes to call him, make their way to Penn State to Happy Valley just to get belt to ass by the rest of the Big Ten, anyways. Give me USC. That freshman quarterback's a stud. And I love Jacoby Lane's game at wide receiver as well.
Yeah, it could be an interesting start to this game as Nebraska's home at night. Never count them out at home. Never know. This could be Matt Rule's biggest win of the year, but we'll see. But I like USC. Could start slow. USC coming off a bye, as you saw what they did against Michigan off the bye. They were fresh and look. But I like USC. USC across the board. They get it done against Nebraska. So we're gonna move on here. Hey, quick shout out to our co-host Mark, who is finally, as you saw, a dog dad. Mark, congratulations. How's it feel to finally be a dog dad?
Well, if you guys listen to this episode, that little shit has been going crazy the whole time, uh, because I had a fucking gate up. But it's exciting. There's two of them here just going fucking nuts, and it gives me something to look forward to every day. We're all dog lovers in this little hosting chat here, and there's a lot of our boys that are getting onto the dog train. So it's been fun, except for the fact that I have to hear this damn screaming all the time.
and Mark is the dogs are blessed with you and we joke around, but they got good owners. So congrats to you and the fiance and the dogs. As Alex got a dog too, Norman, as great dog is love when
Big
I
Norm.
get to love or love when I
Yeah.
love when I get to see him and play with him a little bit every time I come over there. And I got a dog. Who wants my dog? Anybody can take my dog at this point. We call him Sped, but
Hey yo.
Just shipping them off. Real quick.
All right. This dude
He-
just
Yeah,
said
he-
we're all
free
dog
dog.
lovers. We're dog lovers, but if anybody wants one, take it.
no, he's a good dog. He just has his good and bad. He's still a baby, so he's 2 years old. But congrats, Mark. And that's our shout out to Mark for the dog. So, all right, here we go. To continue, we're going to continue NFL, kind of make it a little speedy this time, but we'll still dive into this topic we've all been waiting for since the ass kicking yesterday in Foxborough. We'll let the guest of honor, Alex, kind of give his thoughts. The Browns lose to the Patriots 32-13. Team looked
Get him in your
uninspired.
sights, Al.
They looked uninspired. Hey, at least Miles had 5 sacks. We could celebrate that at some point if we want to. Patriots look
Why
like
he
real,
didn't even celebrate it.
look like real contenders. As with Mike Vrabel, could have been a Browns head coach if they weren't stupid enough. And Vrabel talking that crap after the game, and he might as well do it, Al. As I know you're fed up with it as long
Call
as
it the gimmick.
we are. So, as your first time on the pod, go ahead, vent, and let your voice be heard.
Well, I think that we all knew what was coming the moment that we saw New England on our schedule, and Vrabel was the head coach of the Patriots. I mean, May going out there throwing for 282 yards and 3 touchdowns just let you know our defense, that is quote unquote the best in the league, sometimes could go back to abysmal. Yeah, Miles had 5 sacks, but does it truly matter when you got beat by 32-7 or 32-9? Was I don't even know it's that bad. I turned it off at the third quarter. It's terrible. I think this is one of the worst times we are seeing in Cleveland in terms of the Browns. And I think the locker room is completely already lost. You see Miles sitting on the sideline away from the entire team, but I don't think that, we should give him the credit of being like, oh, it's okay. When he's the one that re-signed for this, he was the one that requested a trade. You knew exactly what you were going to get when you were re-signing that fat check and trying to get the money out of it, but it's just been unbearable this year. Dylan Gabriel it's time to ship him. And I know that it's a few starts, but I've never seen a quarterback throw a check down and get a safety. And that's probably one of the worst throws by a quarterback, and he threw it to absolutely no one. It's horrific what is going on down there, and they need to blow up the entire team. Everything from the coach to the GM to the owners, everything needs to be scrapped, and they might as well move the team back to Baltimore.
Oh, jeez, good Lord! Yeah, and to your point, he can't throw Al over 15 yards. You see him throw 15 yards, he's throwing it over people's head. He's scared to throw. He's checked down, and we're gonna get in this debate more and more as the weeks go by. If Sanders plays, as I know, as a big component you two are with Sanders, when does he play? I mean, now he was not convert or Stefanski earlier on Monday in his press conference, he was not committed to Gabriel. He changed his mind from yesterday, so. We'll see what comes out of the bye. There's rumors he may start after the bye. There's rumors he might not. It might be, Watson down the road. But Mark, we'll turn to you. I think it's more frustrating. I don't think it's frustrating the way we lost. I think it's frustrating because we know this is happening. And remember, we talked about this. The Victory Monday didn't feel like a Victory Monday last week because we knew this was coming. And we knew this was going to be a game. This wasn't going to be a game, and now you're at a crossroads. And you got a coach that got a vote of confidence for now. Does that change depending on how the rest of the season goes? Maybe, but here we are. You don't know your quarterback sucks that you're starting. You got another quarterback that's waiting. That's still on this roster. He's got one more year. He might play over the Sanders at this point.
I don't even really know where to start at this point. So I'm going to start with Dylan Gabriel. There was a couple of arguments that I had. Everyone keeps on saying, "Oh, it's only 3 starts. Oh, this, all that." Let's cut to the chase here. The guy is like 5'5". He has to stand on phone books to ride roller coasters. Anytime. Did anybody see the deep pass that he threw? He put his whole entire might into that pass and just threw it to no one. The guy is terrible. I didn't like him at Oregon. I didn't like him at UCF. I didn't like him at Oklahoma. There's a reason that he needed fucking 8 different colleges in 6 years. He's the same age as I am, and he's his first year in the NFL. He's got a noodle arm. His big thing was, oh, he understands the offense. He can read a defense. No, he can't. His brain he's got a potato brain. The dude he's a potato brain that checked down Charlie. I've never seen so many checkdowns in my entire life outside of the fucking scripted plays that is probably all they work on throughout the week, apparently, because after the scripted plays, we just look like dog shit. Yeah, I mean, true. This kid just shits down his leg. He throws picks and throws check down passes. But everyone wants to say, oh, why would you give up on him after 3 starts? Here's my thing. Everyone says everybody that's giving up on Dylan Gabriel is the same people that gave up on Baker. When Baker played bad to begin, he showed flashes that he had potential. Name me one play in 3 starts where Dylan Gabriel has shown any type of flash other than the flash to send him back to wherever the fuck he came from and let him rot over there. Because the kid is dog shit. He should have never been drafted in the 3rd round, let alone really at all. He was shit in college, and in college, all he saw was man-to-man defense with better athletes than everybody else on the field, and he still really wasn't that good, and he didn't jump off the page. He can't read coverage. It's like he doesn't know the difference between cover 2 and cover 3. I understand he doesn't have weapons, but the idea that even intermediate throws are wide open and he just checks it down instantly is a fucking problem. The kid is ass, and he's making it so that our defense, which is really good, has to work 10 times harder because we can't even record a damn first down. Stefanski, I'm on your ass next. You need to be fired, or honestly, Jimmy needs to walk into his office and say, either give up play calling or give up your livelihood, buddy, because it's not fucking working. I mean, we're not in the fucking 1980s. I understand Judkins is a good running back, but we're handing it off 2 yards, 1 yard, -10, punt, 2 yards, 1 yard, play action. Oh, who are we going to throw it to? Our fucking quarterback can't see over the line. Make a damn adjustment, or just let Tommy Reese, who is your offensive coordinator, it's why you fucking pay him, let him call the plays. Look at his film. Look at what he did at Alabama. Look at what he did in colleges. He's changed complete offenses. He made Jalen Milroe a Heisman contender multiple times over. He's an offensive guru. He played in college. He played high-level college. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe he played practice squad in the NFL. He knows what he's doing, and you pay him for a reason. He's not a fucking clipboard holder. Give up play calling because it's not working. It hasn't worked for years. You fucking blew Baker Mayfield's career up here. You blew up everybody else's career. There's one common denominator in all of these good to decent quarterbacks that we've had in Cleveland for the past couple of years. Everyone wants to say Stefanski has a coach of the year or 2 coach of the years under his belt. That's because the quarterbacks outperformed his dog shit coaching and play calling. There's one common denominator. It's his play calling with all types of bad offenses.
Stubborn, Mark. He is too stubborn. We know that. He gave it up to whoever.
Yeah, he's a chotch.
And he gave it up.
Terrible.
Fans were calling for it to give it up. He gave it up. The Browns, well, they lost anyways last
Hang him
year,
up in public square.
And this is what him. Oh, he gave up play calling. Now look, he's just getting the same result as they did. So you have a team, a defense. You got a defensive coordinator who I don't know why he sticks around this organization. I would have taken a
Free
job.
Jimbo.
Yeah, I free him. If he's not going to be the head coach here or consideration, let him go after this year. Ask for your release. Give him a release. Goodbye. Best of luck. Or I hope you do. Out of all the coaches, I hope he has the most success because look at what he's done so far. He's kept this team in games. And Alex, I think you can agree that defense has been on the field the entire season pretty much, and they're tired. I don't know how longer they can do this, but how much longer they can keep this team in the game. Obviously, probably towards the end of the season, we're going to see players sitting out like Miles and all that because the games are going to be nothing. But at some point, and our receivers suck. Our receivers suck. And they were talking about it on the broadcast. You need bigger body guys. It's good to have those smaller guys, but you need those bigger body guys, Alex, to complement them. And we don't have that. This team sucks. It's a clown show. This coach got a vote of confidence. Why are you giving a coach a vote of confidence when I don't know. It's frustrating.
Oh, he really rallied the troops. Yeah, rallied the troops to doom. This guy fucking stinks.
I don't think that, I think one big thing when we talk about Dillon Gabriel and a flash that we've seen where I don't think that it would have translated to the NFL was last year during the Rose Bowl against Ohio State.
When he stunk it up?
That I'm saying, when they had that first matchup, it came down to the wire and Will Howard cost the game late, which, things happen. But when Ohio State was able to gather themselves and make adjustments and go into the next game against Oregon in the Rose Bowl, it showed you everything you needed to know about Dillon Gabriel. It showed that the year that he was having potentially was not what would, translate to the NFL. He got blown out. Ohio State made him look like a fraud. And from that moment then, I didn't really have as much hope. It's the same issue that we're kind of having. People were complaining that Baker's too small. I think that Gabriel is smaller than Baker, if we're not mistaken.
Bro, he's a midget.
And the thing is, he really has no one to throw to. Jerry Jeudy, yes, I get that. And Fannin was a great pick from Barry this year. But the thing is you got to have consistency at quarterback play. And I think that you almost have to turn the keys over to a guy like Sanders, and I don't understand why it hasn't been done yet. Sanders is the most accurate QB in the entire college football history. Let that sink in. The entire college football history, Sanders is the most accurate. It doesn't matter if
he was throwing deep balls, mind you.
It doesn't matter if it was at Colorado. Give the kid a chance. Why not go in there and let him? What do you have to lose at this point? You beat Green Bay, I understand that, but you beat Miami and you put up 34. And if we want to go back to, Stefanski hasn't scored over 20 points in games that he's coached, If you take that Miami game away, which Miami's terrible as well,
Somehow won this week.
he's still doing the same things that he's done.
Technically, you should be 4-4. You should be 4-4 right now because that kicker cost you the game against Cincinnati, and Stefanski cost you the game against
Oh, that
Minnesota.
guy fucking stinks. Get him out of here too.
Yeah, he missed another kick. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's okay. Season don't mean nothing." Yeah, but he blew you that game. You're technically should be 4-4, at least 3-5 at the worst. Or at least 3-5. You're not because you're coaching your kicker and the front office sucks. And we talked about drafting Gabriel. That was a okay. They didn't think Sanders would be that far, but now you got Sanders telling teams, "No, I don't want to play for you." That's one thing that bothers you too. Why won't you want to say the first team that calls you, "Hey, I'm going to draft you"? No, okay, because you sit behind a guy for a couple of years. Okay, maybe that doesn't work out. You get traded. That's fine. At least you're learning. But now you're not even playing. And I come back to this because if he was ready, he would have played over Gabriel. I think I'm holding to that. If he was ready, Mark, I'll turn back to you. He's playing over Gabriel. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Nah,
That's my
I think
thing.
I think there's butting heads in that front office
Yeah, I agree.
and Kevin's little
100%.
Peabody brain. I think here's what I think. I think they didn't expect Sanders to be there for one. I do agree with that. When he was there in the third round, they should have taken him and or gotten weapons. My big thing is Cleveland is reluctant to get receiver weapons. Now, an ideal draft is you get weapons and you get offensive linemen this coming draft. But we'll talk about that a little later on in the offseason. Right now, my thing is I think Barry wants Sanders, and I think Stefanski, being as stubborn as he is, wants
Yeah,
Gabriel because
he wanted
Gabriel is
Flacco.
built like Baker Mayfield.
He wanted Flacco.
Gabriel is built like Baker Mayfield. Everybody hates him for running Baker out of town and for playing him injured, and he's trying to right that wrong. And he doesn't want to be wrong again. And I think he knows that Barry's guy is sitting there waiting in the wings. So what he's going to do is do everything he can to keep him off of the field so that he's not wrong and he doesn't have to hear that every day in the office. And you've even heard, I understand that Jimmy gave Kevin the vote of confidence. He didn't give Gabriel the vote of confidence, though. He has even said on record multiple times that he wants to see Sanders in some way, shape, or form. That Sanders is getting better in practice in some way, shape, or form. So I think it's everybody else wants Sanders, including the locker room. Look at what the vets have been saying, including the locker room. But Stefanski, as stubborn as he is when it comes to play calling, is so hell bent on not being wrong with that pick and taking him in the third round that he's going to ride it until he literally gets fired.
But I also think that's where, you know, you lose the locker room.
He already
And
has.
it shows. And it shows. No, I'm saying it shows that the locker room has been lost.
Oh yeah,
No one has a vote of
it was
confidence
lost
in
after the first
Stefanski
couple
anymore.
weeks.
No one has a vote in Stefanski anymore. And I think that you saw it in short glimpses of the way that players reacted. Even when's the last time that you saw Myles Garrett get so frustrated that he had to chuck his helmet down?
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay, well, he took someone else's helmet. But the fact of the matter is, I think that you just need to move on. Sure, Stefanski's resume on paper looks cool. Oh, 2 Coach of the Years.
Okay.
No, but if you really look at because the one year I think that Dan Campbell should have won Coach of the Year over Stefanski, and there should only be one Coach of the Year going to Stefanski. And if we want to talk about Coach of the Year, when they went to the playoffs that year and won in Pittsburgh, Stefanski was in his basement. So
Yeah.
who was really calling? And he was calling the plays from his. Yeah, okay. Let's be real. I don't think that Stefanski's the guy anymore. I think that he's had chances. He's had chances with Baker. He's had chances with Watson. He's now shown even with Flacco, even with Gabriel now. It's just he's not the fit here, and I don't think that it's going to last any longer. I think if there's a week to do it, it would be this week. But I also think that they're going to do a lot of shipping out of people this. I think they're going to do a lot of shipping out. I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns look to trade Njoku. They signed 2 tight ends today. They signed 2 tight ends as of today, and now have 4 tight ends on the roster, I believe. With Fannin looking great as it is right now. You ship Njoku out, you can get some things back, but I think you're going to ultimately see the downfall of what's already been a devastating start and history of the Cleveland Browns come around soon, especially in the bye week in the Looms.
Yeah, but I think to your point, if they would have fired him today. I don't think they wait around and let him do a press conference. But it's frustrating.
I don't know.
I think it's frustrating. You can't. You it. I don't know. I think you had a coach sitting right there in Vrabel. So you could have hired him last year. Fire Fancy brought him in. Now look, he's making it all well in New England right now. So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see what
Six
happens.
and two record.
6-2. He's enjoying life, and he's probably going to get him in the
Six
playoffs.
and two, and May's looking like a top 5 quarterback in the league.
Yep. And here we are. We don't even know what our offense is. So be very interesting to see how that goes down the road. But they're on a bye. Thank God. We don't have to deal with, maybe we get one peaceful Sunday before they come back next week. Jets. And let's talk about the Jets. Hey, and congratulations to them. They got a win. As for how hard they were playing, they finally got a win. So good for them. But they defeated the Bengals 39-38, defeated Joey Flacco, and I don't know if this is saying more about the Steelers, what they're going through right now, but you let the same Bengals team who just lost to the Jets in a high scoring affair. Alex, we'll turn to you first. This is a very interesting final, and the Bengals looked like they had it all figured out. Here come the Jets, knocking them off in week 8.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about where this game kind of stands amongst the other games of the week. With especially Flacco looking the way that he is, and going against the Jets, who have been winless up until this point of last Sunday. Aaron Glenn has instilled a culture with the Jets that has been something that has changed. Although the record may seem as low as it is, you could see that players are buying into what Aaron Glenn has to offer as a head coach. When you have enthusiasm as a head coach and you have that around your locker room, only things are going to improve. And as a first year head coach, it's just going to happen where, you're going to happen to lose these games. You're going to try to figure out the kinks and work towards a future that will promote success. I mean, there's also other first year coaches that aren't particularly having the greatest start. But I think for Aaron Glenn, this is a big win for him as an organization standpoint. And maybe this starts to get the Jets a little bit more competitive in the future. But for the Bengals, we knew what they were capable of, and we knew what was going to happen when it came to them losing Joe Burrow at the beginning of this year. The Bengals never had a defense. Even, when Shamar Stewart sat out wanting to get paid as a rookie, and Trey Hendrickson wanted to get his big deal, they never had these guys showing up and attending to practice in the offseason, getting ready for the official season. And even
Right.
still, they've lost, many players and other people as well that wanted to, just leave because of what's going on in Cincinnati. So it doesn't shock me that the Jets won. I think it shocks, me the fact that the Bengals were going to give up that win being up 36-14 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and maybe this is why I don't know. Maybe Tomlin's watching this game before the Sunday night game is kind of maybe complex, but how they played and their defense looked atrocious too against Cincinnati. But as Alex said, they had that game and that drive, Mark, at the end, that last drive Cincinnati had was confusing. Why are you running the ball when you need to get in the field goal range? It made zero sense, and now you're 3-5 and you're pretty much you knocked yourself out of the division race for now. Luckily, Pittsburgh lost. You're right back in it, unfortunately, all of a sudden. But that coaching was kind of. We want to talk about the Browns coaching. That coaching was kind of iffy yesterday as well for the Bengals.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
really understand his coaching, especially understanding that he's on the hot seat anyways. I mean, he's a historically bad starting coach, and he's had these blunders when it comes to coaching pretty often. Um, as far as the Jets, though, I'm gonna go ahead and I like Alex's point there. A lot of these first year coaches, they inherit these really terrible programs, these really terrible franchises, and they have one of two options. They can either instill their culture, or they can just kind of deal with the hand that they're dealt and hope that they can cash in a couple of checks before they get fired until the next guy comes around. Aaron Glenn is not only instilling a culture there, but his team isn't quitting on him. You look at Justin Fields, look at how good of a game he played right after his owner just bashed him in front of the national media. Aaron
Yeah,
Glenn didn't bash him, the owner bashed him. Aaron Glenn, as a good coach, rallied his now starting quarterback, even though he wasn't even supposed to start, and he played lights out. And Justin Fields, I know he has an up and down career, and he can be very iffy at times, but I mean, that's the type of player that he can be if he stays consistent. We all knew the Jets would get a win at some point. They do have talent over there, and I'm not surprised it was the Bengals that they got it off of because that defense has always been horrible. Their owners have never really invested in that defense, and quite honestly, they're letting guys walk out the door requesting trades, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, they're just not going to have a defense ever, and they'll be lucky to keep what they have on offense for the time being. So, I'm really not surprised it was them, and quite honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if their coach was next on the firing block.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's be
I agree.
very interesting to see. So we'll see how that goes. Let's go to we're gonna keep it going. Texas 49ers. Texans, what a way this was, Alex, as they after losing to Seattle and playing the way they did, they kind of shoved it to the 49ers who were kind of in good position for a division spot right now, but they bounced back and without their starting wide receiver too, it's kind of interesting how they did it. And they won 26-15 and Texans, they're kind of an up and down team and kind of perplexing don't know what to think of them this late in the season.
For the Texans, I think this was a great win. It definitely sets them up well. CJ Stroud looked good. Stroud with 318 and 2 touchdowns. But I think a bigger thing to look at when it comes to the 49ers is the fact that Christian McCaffrey, their workhorse, the guy that's been driving them the entirety of the season with all these injuries, whether it's, Ricky Pearsall, Ayuk being gone, Kittle being out, he only had 8 carries for 25 yards, and that itself speaks volume.
Yep.
The fact that you abandon the guy that's put the team basically on his back week to week in the rushing game and having in this outstanding performance week to week, even in fantasy and in real life. So when you abandon the run and you go away from your bread and butter, things are going to be challenging. Now, do I think that Houston's defense is crazy? Not at all, because I think that we've saw glimpses of what teams could do to Houston when it comes down to playing them. They lost a late game in prime time against Houston when Baker Mayfield led it down the field and scored the game-winning touchdown to send it to a loss for Houston. And I also think that Seattle showed what they can do when they have Jackson Smith terrorizing their secondary and also showing, that for the 49ers, I think this is a way worse loss than what the Texans did for a win.
Yeah, I completely agree. They're in a division where the Seahawks are definitely not only up and coming, but I mean they're showing that they have the potential to go even farther than what was expected. Houston does have a good win, but at the end of the day, they've been so up and down. I don't think it really outweighs how big of a loss that is for San Francisco, given the injuries and things like that. Kyle, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I know we're coming up on the last couple of games here before we get NFL picks. Anything to note on that Houston Texans and 49ers game for you?
Yeah, it's perplexing, and it kind of very interesting how Texans with that defense they shut down McCaffrey. That was a very interesting how they did that. McCaffrey didn't touch the ball the whole first quarter, which is I thought kind of weird. I don't know what San Fran was. Obviously, we couldn't watch really much of the game due to regional crap and all that, but very interesting that McCaffrey really didn't do much, and especially not touching the ball in the first quarter. It was kind of perplexing that there was a lot more throws than they were. So be very interesting to see how Texans respond as we're going to continue to go as another. This is very interesting. The Chicago Bears defeated or lost to the Ravens 30-16. There's controversy going on in Baltimore if you're not aware with the Lamar situation, but as Baltimore they got back to it, Mark. As here they come. They have a great schedule to get right back into the thick of things and maybe take over this division.
Yeah, I mean, they leaned back on their running game. They need pieces to come back on defense, but they figured out kind of their offensive scheme. I understand that there's whatever going on with Lamar, but as far as on the field goes, um, with Lamar not on the field as of right now, they really need to lean on Derrick Henry. They did that. Their defense played pretty stout, all things considered. It looked like the Ravens team for the most part they were supposed to, although without Lamar, they're only going to look a certain caliber. But I thought they looked good. I still think, in my personal opinion, they're the favorite to win this division, being that it's so wide open and so trash. Um, and yeah, I mean that's a huge win for them to keep them in contention, because obviously we know division winners automatically make the playoffs. So they're
Yep.
as bad of a season and as injury ridden as it is, they're not out of it yet.
And no, Chicago, Al, they still look decent as they moved the ball. They couldn't find that play and that drive that get them back into this game. But Chicago's still hanging around. But I think it's more to Baltimore, that banged up defense is able to control a Chicago Bears team is on a winning streak. That, as Mark said, they're going to find a way to get back into this. They're climbing back to the division. You can never. They're like the Raven or the Chiefs. You just can never count the Ravens out.
Yeah, I agree. And for the people that were counting out the Ravens, I think it's always too early to, within the first few games, when you know that a quarterback is injured, to count them out. They've had success within the regular season. They've been known, to make wins count when they need it. Not when it comes to playoffs, Lamar goes non-existent, but a lot of people were calling for John Harbaugh's head, saying that he wasn't the coach and maybe they needed to get shipped off from him. I don't think that's necessarily what needed to happen. I think the backup that they had did not fit their scheme. And with Huntley, who is not unfamiliar to this organization, he's had 9 starts for the Ravens in his career. Although he's 3-6, he's familiar with what Harbaugh has to offer, and he plays at a Lamar type style esque.
Yep.
He's a mobile quarterback. He has the ability to throw the ball. And when you have that, which is the scheme of the Ravens, it's going to prime them for success. And I think that's how they went back to their winning ways this week, especially getting Henry, the ball more. And it takes a little bit of pressure off of Henry as well when your quarterback's able to also be a rusher and a passer. So I think the Ravens are just fine. And with the Steelers losing in primetime fashion, especially with a tough game up this week, I do think that we will see Baltimore start to turn the tide, especially with Lamar on the comeback.
Yeah, we're going to dive into this real quick with the Packers and Steelers Sunday nights. Green Bay goes into Pittsburgh and kind of wins the Aaron Rodgers Bowl, as some have been referred to. As we'll start with Mark on this. Mark, Pittsburgh on a 2-game losing streak. Their defense has not. They played a little better than last week, but what is going on? Since they found out Flacco's coming into this division, all of a sudden they just not have been the week 1 through 5 Steelers we saw.
Yeah, I mean, I said at the beginning of the year, when we were talking about NFL and picks and things like that, I think their defense and what you're starting to see is their age. They're getting worn down. They're getting tired. Jordan Love looked insane. Tucker Kraft went complete ape shit on National Tight Ends Day. He actually, I believe, led all receivers and tight ends. Anybody that had receptions and yards.
7.
I mean, he looked great. Jordan Love looked great. Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I just think the Steelers are showing their age a bit.
Yeah.
Now that we're hitting about that midseason form here, they're showing their age. And I kind of figured this would come up. It was just a matter of when. When you build an old roster based off of what their names were, it doesn't always translate to a whole lot of wins in longevity. You'll look good in the beginning of the season because they're fresh. But what happens when you don't get that bye week, or you get it too early? You get it too late. Your team is starting to break down. I understand they don't have a lot of injuries, but they look a lot slower. They're not tackling as well. They're not moving the ball as well. And now those younger players are making mistakes because you were counting on these names that 3-4 years ago, I mean, you probably win a Super Bowl with ease. Now they're not those same players. Their bodies aren't the same. Their decision making is still there, but their quick twitch muscles aren't there. I mean, I just think their age is starting to catch up to them, and you're really starting to see what could happen when you rely on names as opposed to how they've been doing lately.
I agree.
Al, your take?
Well, like what Mark said, Love played an amazing game, 360 through the air and 3 touchdowns. And Kraft had an amazing game with 7 receptions, 143 reception yards, and 2 touchdowns. When you have a performance like that, it's prime for success. And I think this game was, the Steelers to lose, especially being in Pittsburgh on Sunday night.
Yep.
They had the lead going into halftime, but ultimately, it goes back to what Mark says. Sometimes their defense isn't what it always seems based on the names and value that they bring in. And one thing I want to pinpoint is the fact that TJ Watt this year has been almost non-existent. He has 12 solo tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 4 sacks throughout the games this year. And that just speaks volume, I think, to what, we're kind of seeing is at times, players can go and look monumental based on their name, like a Jalen Ramsey. But at times also you will witness the downfall in kind of the slow years and the slumps, and that's what we're seeing right now. Now Rodgers on the other side of the offense still looks good. He's still competing. He's still throwing it around at his old age. But, I think that for the Steelers, this was a game they needed to win. And going down the line now, going to face a very tough Indianapolis Colts team this week where,
Very tough.
Jonathan Taylor could be putting his name in the conversation for almost offensive MVP. Will they get a win this week? I don't believe so.
That's very interesting. Yeah, it's like I said, the Steelers' defense has not been well since Joe Flacco came in, and they got kind of roused on Thursday Night Football. Hey, and Green Bay's got a good weapon back in Christian Watson. He played a great game. He had a couple catches, and
He looked good yesterday.
He looked really good.
Look really good, and Green Bay looks like they are contenders for the Super Bowl, as it's going to be between them and Detroit for the division. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that division plays out. Green Bay plays the Panthers this week. As we're going to move on to picks, as the Colts. We'll talk about this game as the Colts play the Steelers, Mark, and this is a very interesting game because now all of a sudden, Colts are 7-1. Steelers trying to find their way. It's in Pittsburgh. Who do you got?
Yeah, I got the Colts. I love the way they're playing football right now. They look like one of the most complete teams in the NFL. They're playing behind their run game, behind their defense, and they're not putting too much on Daniel Jones the way it was in New York for him. They're letting him play. They're letting him do what the defense needs. He's got young, explosive weapons all over the place. They're running him in play action. He's in the exact system I think he needs to be, and the coaching staff is confident in him. Confidence goes a long way, especially when you're having to be a franchise savior of a forever cursed franchise, and you're not trying to basically be what people are telling you have to be. You can just be yourself. I think that's what you're seeing with Daniel Jones in this resurgence. Give me the Colts, and I think the Colts can really blow this game open, and they might be cruising in the second half.
Alex?
Yeah. If I had to give a take, I'm going to also go with the Colts. I think that the Colts have just been too successful when it comes to their run game. Jonathan Taylor has been an absolute stud and monster this year. Animal. And even when they can't rely on Jonathan Taylor, it seems like Daniel Jones could also get it done through the air. So I think that the Colts are just going to be too overwhelming, especially from a primetime loss to the Packers. And it would only continue for the Steelers' downfall. And I think this is where, like we said earlier, it's going to be the trickle in of the Ravens, and they will start to overcome and take the top of the AFC North. But I like the Colts this week, especially traveling to Pittsburgh, but I think that they're just going to be too heavy for what Pittsburgh has to offer.
Yeah, and the Colts, big-time surprise team, obviously. Who would have thought that signing of Daniel Jones would put them where they're at? Obviously, their whole team is kind of gelled together. I'm going to go ahead and assume Kyle is going with the Colts. But I mean, if he was smart, he would go with the Colts. But I'll leave that to him. I'm actually going to move to our next game. I know Kyle is having some technical difficulties here. But what do you think about the Bills and the Chiefs, Al? The Bills kind of been up and down the last couple of weeks. Chiefs have been the Chiefs in the last couple of weeks. Their offense is really humming. This is always an insane game. Must see TV. What's your take on the Bills, Chiefs? Who do you got and why?
I think it's tough,
especially
right now with the Chiefs playing. I'm not too familiar with the score, especially going on as of right now. But the Chiefs have also been heating up, especially with Rashee Rice coming back to their offense. But now, on the other side of things, Buffalo has also came off another astounding win, especially crushing the Panthers.
Yep.
This is a battle of two heavy hitters, especially when it comes to playoff time in the AFC. But this week, I think I like Buffalo against the Chiefs. I think that Buffalo will show that they are not a joke, especially when it comes to, these challenging games.
Yeah.
Like earlier in the season when they took down Baltimore. I think that Buffalo right now, especially with the last few weeks where they've been a little bit iffy, they lost to Atlanta in Atlanta on primetime. I think they really do need a bounce back, performance, a very top performance, besides crushing the Panthers, because we all know how the Panthers are. I think they need a big win, and I think it comes this week against the Chiefs.
I mean, I like it. And just to update at the time of this recording, obviously it is Monday night. Chiefs are currently up 21-7. I think I'm going to go the other way. I think the Chiefs and their offensive weapons um are going to be a bit too much. I think the Bills honestly lack in the weapons department. I know Josh Allen is at the top of his game. I think he's currently the best quarterback in the league. But the problem is Mahomes has really gotten going with a lack of weapons to start the year, and now all of a sudden everybody's back. Kelsey's kind of in midseason form. All of a sudden you've got Rice, you've got Worthy. Their running game is starting to pick it up a little bit. You've got your Mahomes magic. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I think in a very, very close game. There's always one of those games where you could watch it any day of the week and not get bored of it. It's just one of those type of matchups. Kyle, I'm going to throw it to you. Chiefs Bills. I know you went out there. Actually, why don't we do oh, there he goes again. So I'll get back to him there. Hopefully he can join us back and we'll catch up on some of his picks. As of right now, while we wait for Kyle to join back here, we're gonna go 49ers and Giants. Al, Giants lose a big time player there in our favorite CTE superstar Cam Scatabo with the fortunately just a dislocated ankle. Nonetheless, he's going to be out for a while. 49ers kind of getting some guys back, but still injury ridden. Giants still have Jackson Dart, and I believe Tyrone Tracy is back this week. Al, who do you got?
I love Scattaboo, and I love what he produced for the Giants in terms of the culture shock.
I agree.
And what they've also provided, especially with the combination of Dart as well. Dart has looked astounding to start the season off, but I don't want to shy away from the 49ers, especially coming off a loss to a team like the Texans. I think this is only going to fuel Shanahan in order to, go against Dable and really just show, that last week was a fluke and he gets a big win over the Giants this week, especially with them losing Scattaboo and now going back to Tracy, who was originally the running back of last year. I think it's just going to be overwhelming for them, especially with Dart going against a top-tier head coach. And I think that the 49ers just clear it and get the win this week.
Yeah, I like where you're at. I think I'm also going 49ers. I think this is a must win for the 49ers to try to keep pace with Seattle. I don't know that they're necessarily going to win the division, but if you can try to keep that close, you never know what could happen. The Giants are losing pieces. They're now down Neighbors and Scatabo. I love Scatabo. Obviously, the way he plays football is kind of old school and it's fun. Everybody loves watching him. But I think their lack of weapons is really going to hurt them right now. I think they're relying on that running game was really opening Dart up. Now it's kind of all up to Jackson Dart, Wan'Dale Robinson to make something happen, and that's going to be a tough task moving forward. They don't have the easiest schedule either. I'm going to go 49ers, and I think they might win that one pretty handily, especially in a must-win game there. Kyle still not back with us. I'm going to assume that he's with us on all of these because if he's smart, he just joins the club there. Interesting one, just based off of the division and some things like that. Lions Vikings. Obviously, Lions had a bye last week, but they've been a bit up and down. They've started to turn the tide a little bit. They're still an extremely, extremely talented team. Vikings, obviously, I believe McCarthy, it might be set to come back this week. I know he's trying to, but that defense is still not a joke. What do you think, Al? Lions, Vikings, who do you got? And let me know why.
If they were to play all 7 days of the week, I'd take the Lions every single day. Vikings now lose Carson Wentz out through the season due to due to his shoulder.
He was a soldier for a while, a soldier of death.
He was a soldier. He was holding it down for the Vikings while McCarthy was actually rehabbing and getting back to top shape. But I just think that the Lions need this in order to continue to compete with Green Bay at the top of the division. And I ultimately think that, the Lions come into this game and they just crush, especially coming off a bye week. I think this is the Lions game to absolutely punish the Vikings and, show that they are still one of those teams that when it comes to the NFC later in the year, they shouldn't be taken lightly.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Lions all the way. The Vikings, they basically have to restart again with McCarthy. The Lions coming off a bye, understanding that they're in the race with the Packers here. Lions, they always play good football. They play that fun brand of football. And Gibbs is another one that's just a stud. I mean, that guy is doing everything for that team. Then you throw in St. Brown and JMO. As long as Goff doesn't turn the ball over a bunch of times, I think they win this one pretty easily. Kyle has joined us back. Kyle, we're gonna rewind a little bit. We're gonna give the floor to you here for a few minutes. Run over some of your picks. We didn't catch your Colts Steelers pick. We need a Bills Chiefs pick, and we need a 49ers Giants pick, and then you can join us with the Vikings Lions conversation.
So I'm gonna go. Colts. It's tough, Pittsburgh's
He
dying
was
for a
with us.
win. No, you didn't listen to what I said. I like the Colts, but the Steelers are dying for a win, man. They're dying for a win.
Bills Chiefs is the next one up, Kyle. What do you
If
think?
the
Bills
Col-
Chiefs,
I'm
big
going
game, big
Steelers.
heavy hitters. Chiefs are the Chiefs right now. What do you think?
I'm going Steelers in that one. I think I'm gonna pull the upset. I like the Steelers. I think just what they're due for a win. Chiefs Bills. I like the Bills. I think the Bills defense. Well, they just lost one of their guys today
Oh,
to surgery, so I like the Bills. Bills get revenge until the playoffs, and then the Chiefs will come in. So I'm not worried. So that's why I'm picking Bills now.
hey,
You said Vikings.
you and Al are riding that Bills train.
Yeah,
I respected the Bills are still playing good football. Kyle, next one up, 49ers Giants. Obviously, we all saw Cam Scadaboo's injury. We know the Giants don't have neighbors. They still have Jackson Dart playing. What do you think, Niners Giants?
I'm going 49ers. I like 49ers in this one. I just what happened with Scadaboo if 49ers win, and then Vikings Bill or Lions. I like the Lions in this one. I like the Lions. I like the Lions. I think they're gonna win. And then is there one more we went over when I was
There he
gone?
goes again. I'm pretty sure he likes the Lions in that one, if I'm not mistaken. I know he is a JJ McCarthy lover, but at the end of the day, I think we're all in agreement on pretty much all these picks. Our last one is kind of an interesting one. It still remains pretty relevant based off of our lovely division, Bears Bengals. Bears kind of up and down season. Caleb Williams has been playing some decent ball. They've got some offensive weapons. Their defense hasn't been what it's been expected to be, but you obviously know what's on the other side of the Bengals. They're not going to play very good defense, but they'll test you in the shootout if you let them. Bears, Bengals, Al, what do you got? Can Joey Flack bring him back?
Um, Honestly, I think that the Bears are going to win this one against the Bengals. Um, I think about who needs it more, and if the Bears want any even idea to compete for a wild card, let alone division down the road, they need this win more than what the Bengals do need. So I think that the Bears are going to come hungry, especially coming off a very, tarnishing loss against the Ravens team with with Huntley at quarterback. So it's just to me, I think that the Bears are going to take this one. They will still continue to put their name out there as one of the ones to watch out for in that division if things start to get rowdy towards the end of the year.
Kyle, throwing it over to you. Bears second straight AFC opponent in the division. Bengals still in it. All things considered. Bears Bengals. Can Joey Flack bring them back? What do you think? Well, I guess we'll never know. I am also going with the Bears. I think the Bears offense is going to be too good based off of the fact that the Bengals just they have a non-existent defense.
Yeah.
For all things considered, I have liked the way Caleb Williams has played football in the recent weeks. I understand it's going to be up and down, but his schedule isn't the lightest either. And their O line isn't the best. So I'm going to go with the Bears here. I just think the Bengals are on their way back to the basement, the Ohio basement, so to speak. Kyle, we got another opportunity here. Bears, Bengals. Who do you got?
I like the Bears.
I have an assumption, but I think I know. I think I want to hear what you got.
I like the Bears. I don't know what their Bengals defense going to be. Now, if the Bengals show up strong, you never know. So I like the Bears. I like the Bears. So, all right. Well, sorry y'all about the internet. My internet sucks out here, so sorry about that. It's been frustrating. So hopefully we'll get that fixed. But So
Well, that's our NFL picks. I know Kyle has been having some technical difficulties here. But at the end of the day, there he goes again. But at the end of the day, um it's been a great it was another great NFL weekend. It was a great NCAA weekend. We've got some more good weekends coming up as Monday Night Football is closing out. We had our good friend Alex. We're going to give a round of applause to Alex, who joined us
Thank
here
you. I
this
appreciate
evening.
it.
He again, longtime friend. We've known him since we were all kids. And he came prepared, came with some great takes. He blew the final whistle on a couple of some things. It was great to have him here, especially with our technical difficulties running around. Um, Al, how was your first experience on the pod? Tell the people where to find you on social media if you so choose. And yeah, let's hear your thoughts.
Well, first off, I want to thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate wanting to even have me as a host or a guest, depending on how you want to view it. With Kyle lagging out this last 30 minutes. But no, it was really fun. I liked giving my takes. I enjoyed, the time just talking with, you two guys, especially growing up with you as well. I'm not really on social media as much, but other than that, where you can catch me is this Saturday at the Shoe at Big Noon Kickoff
Yes, sir.
as Ohio State
Yes,
take it against
sir.
Penn State. OH,
Yes,
baby.
sir. IO.
Let's run it.
I'm Mark. That's Alex. Kyle. He'll be here somewhere. I'll throw him in here. This has been the final whistle with our guest Alex, as he shows a great background right there. We're all excited. We're all excited for a great weekend. We hope you guys will like, subscribe. We're gonna have some big news coming up, and like I said, this has been the final whistle. Mark, that's Alex, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Appreciate it.